Hi, I'm Brittany Karbowski, and you're listening to 3 a.m. Thoughts.
That's right, you heard it here, folks. That was Brittany Karbowski from Funimation. Yeah, she voice acts a few notable characters. One of the most notable characters for me is Kami from My Hero Academia. Yeah, so that was also from the recent anime convention that me and my buds we went up to, had some fun, and I decided, you know what, yeah, like, I'm just gonna have fun. We went to a few panels, talked to a few voice actors. It was fun. It was all great. It was all fine and dandy. Hell, I even cosplayed, man. Yeah, like shoot, like I never cosplayed before. And then so real quick before we get into today's facts, let me go ahead and just tell you what my cosplay was. So it was kind of based off Overlord. So in this anime called Overlord, you got this real big skeleton dude. He's just super warlike. He's like the master of the magical arts. And he's just super powerful, but along with being super powerful, he's got this army, of all kinds of cool dark creatures, and he's got this elite he's got this elite what do you call it? Elite soldier, like elite team of soldiers, and they're all in maid dresses. They all have different kinds of powers and stuff. You got one, you got one bug girl, you got one that could just do a whole bunch of karate kids. You got one that can do all kinds of cool magic. It's really nice. But then I thought, this is a Japanese anime, man. Why isn't there like a samurai maid? So that's what I did. It was I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty basic. I just put on the maid suit, freaking put on the like one of those little cutesy looking masks, and then freaking I got some glowy swords, and there you go. I mean, that's pretty much the costume. Pretty basic, but hey, you know what? It was pretty damn good. At least pretty damn good in my book. Hell, I even went to the costume contest, didn't win, but at least I got into it. So, but anyways. So that's enough of that for today. So let's get on to today's facts. Alrighty, so today's facts. So let me take you back a few years ago. So let's take it back all the way to about 2013, 2014-ish. That school year. Here I am, freshman in high school. 15 years old. Still got my long groovy hair. And I'm just chilling. I'm just like, yeah, I'm pretty damn slick. I'm pretty damn cool. I was in biology class, and I was falling asleep because I'm like, I don't want to learn about germs. I want to learn about space. So I started dozing off. But then, now little did I realize that I still kind of had a sleeping problem back in the day. So I'm over here just sleepwalking, in class, and Miss Clark is like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was sleepwalking. And again, so how do I know this? How am I speaking about it right now? Well, it's because, to put it simply, everybody made it known to me that of all the weird and stupid things that I was doing. So here we go. I'm sleepwalking in class. I'm just tripping over everything, tripping over desks, falling face first onto freaking everybody's desk and everybody's pencils, and hell, I even banged my head against the teacher's computer a few times. Still wouldn't wake up. So here I am, just walking around kind of like a freaking dead sleeping zombie. And actually, so we were doing this. She was getting ready for the science experiment that we were gonna do that next week. And so there were all these weird experimental germs that she's working with. It was, I forgot what exactly the lesson was at the time, but anyway, she had this entire project being set up, and I bump into that, and then I get exposed to whatever was in this glass tank, and she's like, "Hurry, take him to the nurse's office and take him to a hospital," so so they take me over there, and so the way they wake me up is that, well, first of all, the nurse kind of slaps me in the face a couple times, and that kind of wakes me up. I'm like, no, Mom, I don't want to go to school today. But then, literally they're like, all right, we need the countermeasure. All right, order some Whataburger. So they get some Whataburger, and they freaking wave a patty melt in my face, and I'm like, oh, so then I go ahead and start eating and start digging in. It was all pretty fine. It was all pretty dandy. It was all pretty damn good. And hell, I had some free lunch. Hey, what else could I ask for? But anyways. So I'm over here still just dazed and confused. I'm like, what am I doing in the nurse's office? I thought I was in class. My teacher was like, well, you started falling asleep in my class. You started sleepwalking, and now here we are. You bumped into to next week's experiment. And I'm like, oh God, wait a second. What, we're having an experiment next week? She was like, yeah, it was supposed to be a surprise, but you decided to walk around and bump into it. I'm like, oh, okay. What were we experimenting on? And she told me that it was all these weird freaking experimental germs that she discovered or whatever, and it was I for the life of me I cannot remember the name, but whatever it was though, freaking that mixed up with all the bumps in my head, because I was banging around on various things in the classroom, I was like, my head hurts. I need to go home. Can I go home, nurse? She's like, yeah, go home, get some rest. You know, you'll be fine. I'm like, hell yeah. Oh, my head hurts. You know, so then I call my grandma up. She picks me up, and then the next the night, it seems pretty damn normal. It seems really damn normal. And then the next morning, I go into my math class, first period, and then then I'm like, math class again. God, I hate math. And I start looking at the board, and you get this. This was a new algebra lesson that we were learning in class, and I had not seen these equations before. I did not. We have not even discussed it yet. Actually, we were going to discuss it that day. But all of a sudden, I look at the board. I see all the numbers. I see all the symbols going on, and I'm like, I understand this. What the heck? So before Mr. Contreras can even say a word, I walk up to the board and I start solving all the equations. He's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't be solving that yet. I haven't taught you yet. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's easy. Simply you put the square root of the x right here, and then you could do this, and then go over, you say, take over the 2, you take it to 2 places at once, and then you go here and put it at a decimal point right there. And I started saying all this like jibber jabber about math and stuff, and he was like, whoa, you're really smart. I didn't figure this out till I was a sophomore. So it was it was kind of a thrilling experience. So then like he started testing me. So he started like putting all kinds of different questions on the board. First over the future lessons that we're going to be learning in class that year, and then for like math problems related to the other years, algebra 2, algebra 3, pre-cal. And you know what? I aced every single one of them. Like I was like, what the heck? How am I so freaking good at math all of a sudden? I hate math. How am I so good at it now? Like, I was making straight D's, man. I was making straight D's. And over here, I'm like acing it, like A++++, man. Like, shoot. Like, I was on a whole new level. I'm on a new level, It was that kind of deal. But anyways. Yeah, so then Mr. Contreras and Mr. Clark, all my math and science teachers, they started calling up, the Texas Board of Education saying, okay, we got a genius on our hands. He's solving all these equations like Albert Einstein. We need to bring him bring him over to to the governor right away. So they take me over to the governor, and he's like, hey son, so I see that you're pretty smart. How about we give you a grant for school? And I'm like, well, I want to be a filmmaker, but sure, I'll take the grant anyways. And he's like, no, you gotta be a scientist, brother. You gotta go, gotta go to school, for math and the sciences. You gotta be the next Albert Einstein. You gotta make us another H-bomb so we can nuke the Japanese again. And I'm like, but why do we want to nuke the Japanese again? He was like, well, because we want to, because this is America. And I was like, sure, I'll go ahead and go into math and science. Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna change career fields or use your grant to, film my dreams or whatever. yeah, you don't have to worry about me. And he's like, well, that's fine to hear. Well, here you go. Here's a grant. So they gave me this grant, a couple $1 million. Like, they're really investing into me. I was like, well, damn, I'm rich now. I'm a millionaire. And then the government taxed me the shit out of it. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was quite a bit, yeah. So, but I just couldn't fathom that the fact that I was a millionaire. I mean, I only had like $3 million, but still, that's a lot to put onto a freaking 15-year-old. But anyways, so we're going on, so now I go home and I'm like, wow, I got all this money. But wait a second, nobody else in my family knows I got money. So what am I gonna do? So then I hide the check in my pocket, and I'm like, let's see, what am I gonna do with this money? Well, I could buy all the game systems I want. I could buy all the games I want. I can buy all the Whataburger I want. But then my parents are gonna be like, how the hell are you getting all this money? Why do you have money? Where did you get this money? And why aren't you giving it to me? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's see. I have an idea. Well, I'm not going to tell them, but I am going to set up something really cool, because an idea just randomly popped up in my head, and I'm like, okay, so frequently around this time, I used to visit my boy Victor back at his house all the time, in his trailer park, he had he had this big old empty lot, I don't know, nothing, a big old empty lot. And then somebody bought it, and then somebody recently bought it, and they built this ginormous shed in there. And I'm like, hey, sir, how much do you want for this piece of land? He's like, well, I'm using it for storage, so, how about 5,000? And I'm like, well, that's pretty damn cheap. I'll take it. So I spend 5,000, I'll buy that tiny plot of land that he was using for a shed, but I keep the shed. And I'm like, you know what? I got an idea. So I go into the dark web, and then I buy myself a monkey, and then I'm like, all right, Mr. Jongo, today this place today this is gonna be my secret lab, and you are gonna be my lab partner. And Mr. Jonga was like, you know, I was like, yeah, come on, yeah, I'm gonna set up a secret lab. You're gonna be my lab partner. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna feed you an endless supply of bananas. He was like, you know, it was great. It was amazing. So you know, yeah, so the millions of dollars kind of went into you know, kind of setting up the lab, you know, building everything, you know, building all these whacking experimental tools that not even I had any idea how, like, what they were or what they did, but I was like, you know what, this looks cool, and this would give my my new lab the whole mad scientist vibe. So I'm like, yeah, you know what, it just, you know, put it in there. Go ahead, just put it in there. You know, it was damn cool, man. It was super cool. Like, you should have seen it. I really should have took some pictures, but for some reason I never took pictures in there. Like, seriously. But then again, that's just me though. I'm never the kind of person to, you know, take selfies or just take pictures of random things. You know, so of course, you know, so of course, you know, I never took any pictures of my lab. Not even when I aced different experiments or solved different equations. But anyways, I mean, this was pretty cool. And so I built this machine, right? So I built this machine. You know, it was the very first machine that I myself built. You know, and it was the I call it the intelligentifier. Yeah, I'm not good with names, but yeah, the intelligentifier. You know, so the whole point of this machine was to enhance pretty much, you know, intelligence. You know, that's why I call it the intelligentifier. But I overlooked, you know, some pretty crucial little bugs and tweaks. You know, yeah. So you know, I tested on Mr. Jongo, and so I made him as smart as hell. Actually, I made him just as smart as I was at the time. And he started developing a British accent, and then he became like super good at karate. And then it was like he was a whole different monkey, and he was like, my name is Bond, a Monkey Bond. And I'm like, no, you're Mr. Jongo. He's like, Mr. Jongo is no more. I am Monkey Bond. But I'm like, no, you're supposed to be my lab assistant. He's like, how am I supposed to work in a lab when I have these great powers and I can go save the world? And I'm like, please, Mr. Jongo, you're my pet monkey. You're supposed to help me. You're supposed to help me with my lab, brother. Why are you doing this? And he's like, I can't do this right now. I'm making crime pay for justice. He was saying something like that. Again, his intelligence went off the roof, but his grammar still wasn't really good. But anyways, you know, so he ran away, and I'm like, well, here we go, time to buy another monkey. You know, so I spent the last of my fortune, you know, buying another monkey, and I called him Mr. Jongo the Second. You know, so I was like, okay, Jongo the Second, I'm not gonna make you smart. No, I don't want you leaving me too. I spent way too much money on you. So okay, you know, so I'm like, all right. So what else can this machine do? You know, so I tried it on myself. The problem was, I lost every single tiny bit of intelligence that I had, you know, from whatever that weird experimental germs that freaking Miss Clark had in her class. Yeah, it is completely eradicated now. I was no longer smart. You know, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, bro, does this thing make pizzas? You know, so I started testing it on different things. You know, I put the first thing I did was put a TV remote like right in the bottom of this freaking the intelligentifier laser. You know, so then freaking it shoots it, and it starts destroying it. I'm like, huh, yeah, these things go boom. Let's put more stuff under it. So then I put a frog there, and the frog turned into like this weird mutation of a frog and a person. Like it was kind of weird. But then like I did many different experiments with this freaking with the intelligentifier, and like with every little experiment that I would do with the machine, a different result would always come up, and you know, it was kind of weird. But anyways, so going on forward, yeah, so all night, I mean literally the entire night, I was just doing nothing but just doing random experiments with it. And but then I got the thought, wait a second, I swear I used this on a monkey, and the monkey got powers. You know, like, well, I mean, he didn't exactly get powers, but he suddenly got the ability to fight, and he says he wants to fight crime. And I'm like, I can make a superhero out of this. I could finally be a superhero, achieve my lifelong dream of being 10 years old with superpowers, except not being 10 years old. But anyways, yeah. So I thought, yeah, you know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a superhero. You know, so I'm like, I don't know how to create a superhero. I don't have a suit. I'm all out of the grant money, and I don't know what else to do. You know, so freaking and so now my boy Victor calls me up, and he's like, hey, your Facebook says you're near my house. Can you come over? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Well, actually, you know what? Why don't you come over here? You know, it's in the neighborhood, and I got something cool to show you. So I bring Victor down to my, to my secret lab. You know, he's like, damn, bro, this is cool. Like, can you make a music machine? And I'm like, I would. if I could, but unfortunately, I'm an idiot again. So I can't exactly do that for you, buddy. And then, so then I start showing him the intelligentifier, and he's like, whoa, what does it do? And I'm like, well, at first, I thought it would make things intelligent, but kind of just whatever the hell it wants, you know. So then, you know, I throw a piece of pizza down there and I shoot it with the intelligentifier. You know what it does? It turns into a freaking crying, like this giant crying pizza monster. And it's like, see, that didn't happen the last time. And then it started shooting lasers out of its eyes, and I'm like, okay, that's new. I didn't think it would make it do that. You know, so then it started causing havoc inside the secret lab, and I was like, okay, yeah, we gotta stop this, Victor. I need you to hurry up and get under this laser. And he's like, hell no! And he started running away. And I'm like, oh man, damn it! And what am I gonna do? And then the pizza monster follows him outside. But then it thankfully doesn't fall into his house. But it starts causing havoc in the city, and it started causing havoc in the city for a couple of days until the pizza monster eventually rotted and got destroyed by a bunch of ants. You know, so then I was like, huh, well. Thankfully, you know, thankfully my mess was cleaned up by somebody else. But so I thought to myself, okay, but there's actual criminals out there. There's actual super criminals out there too. So I need to make a superhero. But the problem is, what am I gonna do? So then I realized that when Victor came along, before he ran away, he left his jacket there, and his jacket was a jacket from Rice University. And I'm like, let's see, I have a weird idea, you know. So I put the jacket under the damn intelligentifier. I shoot it, and then seemingly nothing happens. I'm like, it's not this. It's the same. It's not growing eyes. It's not turning into a gun. It's not freaking. It's not turning into a ghost or It didn't even turn into anything edible. It's just the same damn jacket. You know. So I throw it to the side, and I'm like, well, this thing was a bust. You know. So then I go home, and then I go to school, and I'm like, hey Victor, you left your rice jacket here the other day, and he's like, oh okay, thanks man. Yeah, it was getting cold in my house. You know. So then so he put so then it was just a normal school day. I kind of disappointed all my teachers because I was no longer intelligent, you know, so I was just a normal average high school student again, and they didn't like that, and they started roasting me all day. It was a pretty bad day at school actually, but anyways, you know, so then the next morning right before first period started, Victor was like, okay, so what did you do to my jacket? I'm like, well, what do you mean? What's going on? Is it too tight? Is there a hole in it? What's going on? He's like, well, I put it on and something weird happened. And I was like, weird how? What, did it smell weird? He's like, no, it's... I gotta show you, but it only works at night. You know, I'm wearing it right now, but if I put it on at night, weird things happen. I'm like, well, can you explain to me? It was like, it's easier if I showed you. You know, so what goes on was that, you know, so then, you know, the damn school day, you know, it goes on, you know, and we're just God, I'm at a loss for words right now. Okay, yeah, here we go. So the school day goes on, you know, just like any normal day. And so then I come over to his house after school when the sun starts setting. And he's like, okay, so I'm gonna put this jacket on, and I'm gonna show you this weird stuff, this weird thing that's been going on. I'm like, okay, sure. You know, so he puts it on, and all of a sudden, his entire body starts morphing, his face starts having this mask, you know, form over him. You know, and it kind of looks like Spider-Man if Spider-Man used a freaking rice sack, you know, for a mask. And then all of a sudden, his accent changed. He's like, yeah, hell yeah. And then on top of that, you know, shoes. He starts wearing clown shoes. And then in his hands, you know, he has these weird looking Mickey Mouse looking gloves. But then he has the ability to throw rice everywhere. Actually, he summons rice out of nowhere. He makes rice. This dude can make food. He can feed the hungry. He can feed the poor. But anyways, you know, so this dude here, he starts becoming a real life superhero. He's like, hey, what's up, fool? My name is Rice Man. Yeah. And I'm like, Rice Man? Wait, no, you're Victor. He's like, who is Victor? I know I'm Rice Man. I am the protector of the universe. And I'm like, of the universe? But the universe has never seen you yet. He's like, oh, don't be foolish, kid. Yeah, I've saved this planet many times over. And I'm like, you're just born yesterday. And I'm like, well, a lot can happen in a few hours. Well, anyways, I need to go. There's a lot of crime going out there right now, and I need to stop it. And I'm like, okay. hey, can you take me on this crime stopping journey? He's like, well, sure thing, hop aboard. And then all of a sudden he summons his lowrider, a purple lowrider, and then and he's like, all right, now I need my sidekicks. So he summons a polar bear, a lion, and a grizzly bear, and he's like, all right, let's go. And so I grab onto the lowrider, and it starts flying, and it's like, I'm like, oh god, Rice Man, help me, I'm gonna fall. And he's like, well, you'll be fine. Falling from 50 feet in the air won't hurt you. And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't have powers. So we're flying in the air in this damn lowrider with the freaking bears in the back. I'm grasping on for dear life, hoping that I don't fall to my death. And then finally, we land. So we land in the middle of this random city. Like, we're not even in the state of Texas no more. Like, we're just in the middle of this random city, and I'm at a loss for direction. Because like I had no idea what state we're in. I had no idea what city we're in. Hell, I couldn't even really tell if we were in the same country. Well, seen by all the English signs, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're still in the same country. But then until I saw a freaking pub, and there was a bunch of British people, and I'm like, oh god, we're in the freaking UK, aren't we? And he's like, there's a lot of crime been going down here lately. You see that dark alley right there? I stopped at least 12 fools last night. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like, what's the crime? What's going on here? And then all of a sudden, a freaking a building explodes. Thankfully, it was vacant. And then all of a sudden, we meet Dr. Negative. This really skinny guy. He has no costume whatsoever, but like he has like all these tentacles, and he has all this like dark electricity, and yeah, it's the dark is yeah, again. I'm at a loss for words here. Anyways, yeah, so he has this dark electricity on him. He's got these tentacles. He's got these wicked cool looking glasses. He's like, I am Dr. Negative. I will destroy everything positive about this world. You will all live in the darkness, the same darkness as I do. I mean, that's not a hard British accent, but that's the best I can do right now. But anyways, yeah, so this dude was like, I'm going to destroy everything, and you can't stop me, Rice Man. Not even with your rice powers. And he's like, all right, Mr. Polar Bear, Mr. Grizzly Bear, and Mr. Tiger, let's go. And I'm like, that's not a tiger, that's a lion. Well, he can turn into a tiger, that's a special power. And I'm like, huh? So then the lion turns into a tiger and starts attacking Dr. Negative. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And then out of nowhere, right from behind us, Dr. Deathray from Kentucky, comes out. He comes out of nowhere in the KFC mobile, and he's like, all right, who wants to taste my Deathray? And I'm like, oh no, it's Dr. Deathray. And I'm like, how did you know his name? And I'm like, I just guessed. I didn't think that was a real name. He's like, I'm Dr. Deathray, and I'm going to turn you to fried chicken with my Super Duper Deathray 3000. You're going to be turned into the fried duck, fried chicken, fried pig. Who knows? Well, to prepare to die, prepare to be edible. So then he fires up his damn laser. He's like, all right, are you ready to die, brother? And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to be turned into fried chicken. Well, you made me turn to fried egg. And so Rice Man's like, stop it right there. I'll save you. I'll protect you. So he starts like this entire hurricane. Yeah, so he summons this entire hurricane of like rice and stuff. Well, it was mainly rice, but also a bunch of the surrounding debris. So then like he starts consuming both Dr. Negative and Dr. Deathray all into this one big old like super hurricane. It was like, alrighty, let's go. Let's keep this going. It's rice time. So then he defeats both of the doctors, and he's like, all right, well, this is the job well done. And I look around, and I'm like, half the city is destroyed. And he's like, well, that doesn't matter, at least the city is saved. I'm like, it's the opposite is saved. You destroyed the city to destroy the bad guys. He's like, well, whatever, we don't have to be concerned with that right now. And I'm like, what? Okay, fine. So then I hitch a ride with him and the bears, in his lowrider, and we fly back over to Texas. And then so then once we get home, the sun's rising, and he's like, all right, my time has come. It's time to rest. All right, everybody, assume position. So then like the three bears, the two bears and the lion, they set themselves up in front of Victor's trailer, and then they start turning back into stuffed animals. I'm like, huh? And then the lowrider car, once we all exit off it, it starts like, it shoots itself in the air. It's like, and I'm like, huh? Where's it going? And then like it shoots itself in the air so high, I can't even see where it's going. And then just like I just see it, like it's kind of like in Pokemon whenever Team Rocket blasts off again. Like literally it just kept on going up and up until I just saw a little you know twinkle of a star, and I'm like, oh, well, there goes that. And then the Rice Man was like, ugh. Oh, it hurts every time I transition back into a regular person. Oh, I gotta take this jacket off. So he takes off the jacket, and it's just Victor. And he just passes that right there on the floor. He's like, oh, what happened? And I'm like, lots of things happened. I understand now. I definitely understand now. You know, so yeah. So then like, God. It's weird, man. It's freaking weird. The whole Rice Man situation, yeah, really weird. Well, anyways, so let's go into a little further into the future. Okay, so there was this actually, let me give you some more context. So, you know, the city that we're in, it was a really nice city. You know, hardly anything happened except the fact that you hear ambulances all the time because, one, we lived in a city that was. Actually, it's a hodgepodge of where half the population is, you know, freaking old as hell, so they're always dying as hell, and then the other half of the population is a bunch of freaking youngsters that love to drive recklessly, and because of that, they go to the hospital recklessly. So, you know, so other than that, it was a pretty good town. Nothing barely happened, and when it did happen, it was mainly because, oh no, somebody broke into my house. Who broke into your house? Oh, well, it was my Uncle John. You know, he just wanted a place to sleep, and nobody was awake to answer the door, so there you go. But anyways, but then, you know, from the bordering city, we got this real bad gangster, man. You know, he called himself Big Mofo. You know, like, you know, he was this really big, massive dude. Like, I'm talking super massive. Like, I've never seen anybody. I didn't even think the human body could even get this ginormous. Like, this dude was bigger than Shaquille O'Neal. And he was a freaking gun runner. Like, he sling drugs everywhere. He always had hoes on his side. He'd be blasting his rap music really loud. He'd be like, yeah, I'm Big Mofo. I'm gonna beat you up for $10. You know, he'd be saying stuff like that. And he was terrorizing the city. You know, with him and his little gang. And I was like, you know what? Okay, Victor, put on that rice jacket tonight. You are gonna save the city. He's like, why do I have to do it? Well, because that's not my jacket. I can't save the city. You are our only hope, Victor. You have to help us save the city. And it was like, all right, fine, sure. You know, so then that night, you know, he dons the jacket, right? And then all of a sudden, Rice Man's like, huh, I sense a great evil upon us, but I have no idea where it's at. You know, so then I tell him, okay, so let me give it to you straight, buddy. There's this guy named Big Mofo. He's terrorizing the city, and last time we checked, you know, he was over there on Center Street. Can you take care of him for me? It was like, oh, wow, sure thing, anything for justice. You know, so then he flies off. You know, again in the freaking low rider with 3 bears. You know, and I ride around with him because I want to see. Because I was like, again, we don't get a lot of action in the city, so I want to take a look. I want to take myself a look see. You know, so I take a look. Big Mofo, you know, he's got his gang with them. You know, they got all kinds of weapons. Shoot, one of them's got a baseball bat, one of them's got a freaking Tech 9, the other one's got a freaking what do you call it, like an AK-47. The other one has a bazooka, the other one has a couple of grenades on them, and then one of them has a freaking Morning Star for some reason. I'm like, huh, why are you going medieval? And she was like, why not? You know, so then anyways, so then it was this big old fight going on, you know, bullets, chains, explosions, all this other stuff going on. And then Big Mofo was like, all right, time for my trump card. So then he crosses his arms, he looks directly at Rice Man, and then like all of a sudden, freaking like his body starts coming apart into pieces, like and it was so weird. And then it turns out Big Mofo was just a giant freaking cyborg. And it was like, haha, you can't fight me now. Rockets, engage! So then so then all of his body parts started freaking like flinging at him at full speed. And then Bryson was like, oh, I can't keep up with this. I need help. So then I rush over to my secret lab really like right away. I find this other jacket, it was a random jacket that I found on the floor. And I was like, you know what? I really hope we can make lightning strike twice. You know, so I put the jacket under the intelligentifier, and then, you know, I shoot it, and I'm like, okay, now let's put it on, see what happens. And I didn't realize this, but the freaking jacket had a picture of the Jamaican flag and it said Jamaica. So I put it on. I was like, "Hey, mom, I'm the Jamaica man, yeah, ha ha." So then I walk over to the scene of the battle, right? And you know, I'm over here. I'm just this really high Jamaican. I'm like, "Yeah, my name is Big Shane, man. I'm going to defeat you with the power of the marijuana, man." You know, so I started throwing freaking weed brownies at them, and they were like, "What? Why'd you steal my supply, fool? Oh, you gonna get it now, fool? You gonna get it now?" And while I was distracting him with the weed brownies, Rice Man comes over here and he's like, "Super duper rice tornado!" You know, so then he freaking snatches him up in this ginormous tornado, and then he's like, "Alrighty, now it's time to send you to French prison." He's like, "Why?" Yeah, Big Muffin was like, "Why French prison?" He was like, "Well, why not? Oh, go to French prison." And they're like, "Oh!" And then later on in the news, you know, they and on the international news it said, "Freaking random tornado made of rice sends local gangbangers, you know, to a French prison." And I'm like, "Oh hell yeah, that's how we do it. This is how we do it." Yeah, it was pretty damn cool. Let's see. So then, you know, me and Rice Man, we realized, okay, we really need to work on our fighting styles. You know, whether we got cool powers or not, we still need to work on, you know, our actual fighting. You know, so one day, you know, I'm like, I pay off the bus driver, and I'm like, "Hey, so instead of taking us to school today, here you go, here's an extra 100. Why don't you, you know, why don't you take us to that Chinese place down the street, you know?" And then, you know, so the bus driver's like, "Oh hell yeah, okay." You know, so then we go down, yeah. So then he gets the bus. You know, we get inside the bus. You know, and he goes down. He drops everybody off. Yeah, he drops me and Victor, including everybody on the freaking bus. He drops us all off at the Chinese restaurant. We all go, like, step off the bus, and everyone's like, "Wow, the school was taken over by Asians." And then so the restaurant that the restaurant that he dropped us off at was Soy's egg rolls and chicken. You know, it was just a weird place. Actually, let me tell you about Soy's freaking egg rolls and chicken. Okay, so you walk in, it's not your typical Asian place, you know. And it looks, actually, when as soon as you walk in, you smell the Chinese food, but it looks more like a dojo. Like it looks like one of those old karate, well, not old, but yeah, it's like kind of like a Japanese style karate dojo where you walk in, you see bow staffs everywhere. Kind of smells like feet, sweat, and Chinese food. You know, you smell the dumplings, but you can also smell everybody's stinky feet. But anyways, you know, there's no tables, there's no nothing, but there's a counter and there's a menu and there's a sign that says, "You don't pay, I do kung fu, you don't live." You know, it was a very simple place. But anyways, yeah, all these pictures of dragons and all that everywhere. It looked pretty damn dope. But again, why no tables? And then then you look around and then you see the way people are eating. You know, you think, you know, this is a Chinese restaurant. You know, people be eating with chopsticks and whatnot. No, but then you're thinking, oh, well, then maybe they're eating with forks and spoons because, you know, they're kind of a, you know, more of an Americanized place. And, you know, I'm like, nope, not at all, boy. You know what they be eating with? So everybody has their plates and stuff on the floor. They're sitting crisscross on the floor, and instead of using any kind of utensils at this restaurant, and you can't do it any other way. You're required to do this. You have to eat with your feet on the dojo. Yeah. I don't know. It was, and I know it's nasty. That's why the place partially smelled like feet. It was because, like, you had to eat with your damn feet. Like, and if your feet were nasty, and if they were hairy, or if you got toe jam, or it don't matter. You have to eat with your feet. Like, if you're like, unless you're taking it to go, hell, freaking, like, you order some egg rolls, you better hope first of all that your legs are flexible enough to do it. But then, like, you also better hope that your feet ain't stinky tonight, because you gonna be eating those egg rolls with your feet. You know, picking them up with your feet like a monkey, and then you're gonna be eating them. And you better hope that you ain't fat either, because hell, I've been trying to do that with a fat belly. Hell, it ain't right, man. It ain't right. And then, if you get caught using a utensil other than your feet, even if you're using your hands to eat anything in this restaurant, you know, Soy, you know, the owner of the restaurant, he'll send his freaking his son Soy Jr., you know, this ginormous sumo wrestler, and be like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be eating like that. He'll grab you by your clothes, he'll take you to the back, and then when you go to the back, there's this ginormous sumo wrestling like freaking ring. You know, he'll throw you in the middle, and then Soy Jr. and whoever he's fighting that day, they'll both pounce on top of you and be like, "Huh, big fat pile, you know, he will crush you, and the other guy will just make you crush even more. They'll turn into ketchup, and then it'll put you, they'll put you in the ketchup packets, and then, well, actually, no, there's no ketchup packets. There's soy sauce. They'll turn you into soy sauce, put you in the soy sauce packets, or sometimes a soy sauce bottle, and they'll serve you to the customers. Like, seriously, this was no place to joke around. Like, seriously, like, soys, yeah, it was definitely something else. But anyways, you know, so me and Victor, you know, we walk up to Soy, and we're like, hey, Soy, all right, so recently we've been getting into the habit of fighting crimes, and we need you to help us, well, you know, we need you to help us refine our karate skills. You know, we need to be able to take down these losers. You know, like if we get any more threats like Big Mofo that come terrorizing the city, well, we need to be able to fight back. Can you help us with that? And he's like, huh, I do it for free, because I hate injustice. I will help you right away. You know, so then, yeah, so, you know, he takes us over to, you know, to his sumo wrestler dojo, and then he's like, alright, so first of all, you do this, you know, he starts doing all these karate moves, like, super fast, and I'm like, whoa, babe, brother, I can't keep up with you. I really can't, like seriously, like, look, like, we're over here, we're dazed and confused here, and, like, can you teach us something kind of simple? And he's like, oh, well, don't come to Soy, go to Ninja Joe, and I'm like, who's Ninja Joe? And I'm like, you'll know him someday. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, well, is there anything you could teach us? I mean, I don't know who this Ninja Joe is. Like, what the hell? Like, come on. Like, well, come on. Can you show us at least something? He's like, okay, so here's ball stuff. You get ball stuff. You hit really hard. Boom, bam. And this is the reason why we call it bamboo stick. Bam, bam, boo. You know, so I'm like, okay, cool. He teaches us some cool moves. He's like, why do you need to learn how to fight with stick? It's just a big stick of a bar. It's a big stick. That's what big stick do. And I'm like, okay, fine. You know, you're useless. And I'm like, you say I'm useless? You say I'm useless? Oh, you're dishonorable. I shall kick your butt. I'll do kung fu on you. You don't live. And so me and Victor, we ran out of the dojo, running for our lives. He's like, you don't come back to the restaurant. You don't be mad at your sensei. You know, so he says all this kind of weird stuff, man. So anyways, you know, so again, we try. So me and Victor, we try to learn how to use our bow staves, you know, together. You know, freaking we get our bow staves and we start like, what was that word? Freaking sparring with them. You know, we made up all these cool moves. Man, if this was a video cast, man, I can show you all the cool moves that we did. But anyways, so like the next month, you know, again, ever since Victor got his rice man powers, man, let me tell you, crime just pops up everywhere. Like all these supervillains. Like seriously, like before then, supervillains didn't even, before he got his powers, supervillains didn't even exist. All of a sudden, he gets the ability to become Rice Man, and then every supervillain in the damn universe wants to come by and be a freaking be present here in the city. And I'm like, really, guys, where were you before? Where would you be if we hadn't got his powers? But anyways, so there's this nerd, right? No, not a nerd like me, but like this dude was just a real big bookworm. You know, he loved reading books, but the problem was that like he always got teased, and you know but he would never show any emotion. You know, he would just kind of take it. It was a really sad sight, man. Like really, it was terrible. But then one day he kind of snapped, and he brought this weird book with him. And, like it was in a whole different text. Like I couldn't even tell what language this was. And like he started speaking all these like IKEA words. He was like, oh, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, he becomes like this 80,000-year-old wizard, and he's like, I am the wizard. I have the magical powers of the ancient brothers. Yes, who dare shall oppose me? You know, and then, you know, going onward, freaking, you know, you got what's his name? Yeah, so you know, so actually, what was his name? Yeah, the nerd's name before he became the Wixer. I think his name was like Leroy or something like that. Anyways, Leroy, you know, becomes the Wixer, and he starts freaking. Well, first he starts targeting all of his bullies, and he's like, the Wixer shall clean up the crime here in this school. Yeah, you know, so freaking he starts freaking like waving his wand, starts casting all these different spells like on freaking all his bullies, turning them into rabbits, turning them into freaking taco soup, and turning them into like fire hydrants and stuff. Seriously, like he wasn't trying to like he didn't have a goal in mind. He was just trying to turn his enemies into these random things, you know, to kind of torture them. But anyways, so you know, so going forward, Yeah, so going forward, you know, after he takes care of all his bullies, you know, and after he sends them to the freaking like Shadow Realm, I swear it's something like the Shadow Realm, man. Freaking, he opens up a black hole with his front, and he's like, and he freaking sends all the he sends every mutated bully into this black hole, and I'm like, dude, you can't be doing that. Like, I mean, I get it, but bro, you can't be doing this, brother. That's not nice. And he's like,
I am the Wixer. I determine what's nice and what's not. You just sit there and let me do my thing.
You know, so then, so then he starts turning other people into random things. He starts turning the teachers into fishes. And I'm like, bro, you can't be doing this, man. They didn't do nothing to y'all. They're like,
well, they just stood by while I got teased for reading books. I shall not let this happen anymore. Now, you stand still while I turn you into a monkey.
And then so then Mr. Jongo the second comes by, and he's like, so then he kicks him in the face. He's like,
well, I'll start with you. You are going to the Shadow Realm.
You know, so then freaking so then he sends Mr. Jongo the second to the Shadow Realm, and I was like, no, how could you do this? I spent 1,200 on him. And he's like,
well, you're about to spend for 1,200 years in the Shadow Realm.
You know, so then Bryceman comes up and he's like, haha, not today, sucker. I serve justice for eternity. And I'm like, wait a second, it's not nighttime. How are you, Bryceman? He's like, well, I don't know. Plot armor, you know. So then he starts fighting freaking the Wixer here, you know. So like he uses his rice powers, but then every time he tried to use his rice powers, the Wixer would use his magic wand and either turn his rice into air or into cotton candy, or freaking like he would just take away his damn ability, like, period. And I'm like, oh man, has Riceman finally met his match? And Riceman was like, not to fear, I'll send the bears onto him. Bears, attack! You know, so then he sends the bears, but then, you know, the Wixer turns them into cats. You know, then he sends them to China, and Riceman was like, no! How can you do this? My life is ruined. He sent my greatest powers in the whole wide galaxy to their dooms. And I'm here like, okay, here. He's like, what's this? I give him his bow staff, and he's like, remember everything that we taught ourselves with these bow staffs? And he's like, no, I wasn't there. And I'm like, okay, you're useless. Here, just whack him really hard with this stick. It's called a bamboo stick, you know, see? Bam, boo. Yeah, so go. You know, so then we start, so for some reason, of all, like, the freaking things we threw at this Wixer guy, man, like, seriously, like, freaking using bow staffs on him was, like, yeah, you using a bow staff was easily like the only thing that could stop him, because for some reason, like, his spells, his magical attacks from his wand do not work on wood. So it was perfect, you know. So for like freaking, we're using these invulnerable sticks, you know, to kind of beat him up, and we're like, yeah. He was like, how dare you beat up an old man? And I'm like, how? Like, you ain't no old man. You were 15 just a second ago, you know. So freaking, like, literally, we just started wailing on him. He's like, okay, fine, I'll stop using my magical powers for my own desires. Please, just stop this right now. Stop this instant. Yeah, and so, you know, from there on, you know, he calmed down, and then, you know, he reverted back to his original self, and he sent everybody back. And then from there on, everybody got scared from him. Everyone got scared of him, and he got expelled. But anyways, you know, that pretty much wraps up a lot of the Riceman saga. Now, actually, well, not really. With the original Riceman saga, you see, what happened was that eventually Victor realized, I can't be wearing this jacket anymore. Like, it's too much responsibility, too much power, and it attracts a lot of bad people to our area. You know, so so instead of throwing the jacket away, he donates it to charity. I know, very nice, but that means some rando ends up getting the power, and then it's to this day, in my last home city. You know, there's still a guy who goes by Riceman, still flying around fighting crime. They still fight super villains? I don't know. I mean, I don't live there no more, and besides, I don't even see the guy no more. Freaking Victor's, you know, doing bigger and better things right now, and Riceman is just being Riceman. But anyways, you know, if I come up with, no, these are facts. If I hear about any more Riceman stories, I'll go ahead and tell them. But you know what? For now, that's pretty much all I got. Hell yeah. Okay, so maybe it may seem like I'm ending the podcast a bit early, but I think I'm going to be doing this, you know, like I'm gonna make 40 minutes the new standard for podcast, because you know what? don't want to be forcing myself to make up content, you know, for like the last 20 minutes. So here we go. This is gonna be the new standard what you call it? Yeah, the new standard length for podcasts. You know, 40 minutes long, and then mini casts will be like 20 below. So there you go. Anyways, okay. So if you made it this far, thank you for listening to today's facts. You know, I swear it's definitely facts. No quotations. No FAX. No FACK. You know, yeah, facts. You know, definitely true. Definitely all true. You can look it up yourself. I suggest you don't, because the internet lies to you. But anyways, yeah. So stay tuned to my YouTube channel, because I'm still uploading videos every single day. You know, eventually it's getting caught up too. As of right now, I got episode all the way up to episode 70 lined up on the YouTube channel. So go ahead and give that a look. Anyways, alright, it's your boy Asiago signing off on 3 AM Thoughts. Have you a good one.